People at the Silver Ridge Arena swore they would never forget that night. Not because of the lights, not because of the roaring crowd, but because a boy no one had ever heard of stepped onto the stage, barefoot, trembling, and turned Hotel California into something the world had never imagined. By the time he finished, history had a new name, the boy from nowhere. No one knew where Evan Hartley came from, not the town officials, not the kids he passed in the street, not the store owners who occasionally spotted him slipping in to buy the cheapest bread. He was a mystery, quiet, thin, and always alone. People called him the boy from nowhere because he had no address, no proper documents, and no known family. The truth was far simpler and far sadder. Evan had been wandering from place to place ever since the foster home system had lost him in their paperwork. At 14, he learned to survive on scraps, forgotten corners, and kindness from strangers who didn't ask questions. What he didn't learn, what no one taught him, was how to feel wanted. Music became the only thing that didn't abandon him. He had a second-hand guitar, missing 2 strings and covered with scratches, but to Evan, it was home. Every evening, after doing odd jobs or helping at a mechanic shop for a few dollars, Evan would sit under an old oak tree behind the abandoned train station. There, head play softly, pouring the ache of his life into each note. His favorite song, the one he played whenever loneliness crawled too deep, was Hotel California. He didn't know why it touched him so much. Maybe because the lyrics felt like they were written for someone like him, someone trapped in the world, unseen and unheard, but still holding on. A few miles away, in a buzzing music studio across town, Darren Collins, a 50-year-old producer known for shaping legendary talents, was losing hope. Every young artist who auditioned sounded the same. Perfect voices, perfect training, but no soul. He missed the rawness of music, the kind that came from life instead of lessons. One afternoon, while driving home, Darren's car stalled near the abandoned train station. As he stepped out, cursing the old engine, he froze. A soft melody drifted through the breeze. It was Hotel California, but different, gentler, deeper, aching in a way Darren had never heard. Each chord felt like a heartbeat. Each lyric felt like a confession. Darren followed the sound, stepping quietly until he saw him. A barefoot boy with messy hair, a torn shirt, and a guitar too old to survive another week. Evan sang with his eyes closed, unaware anyone was watching. His voice was fragile yet powerful, like someone who had cried too many times, but still believed the world might one day love him back. When the last note faded, Darren clapped once soft, deliberate. Evan jerked up, startled. His eyes widened with fear. "I am sorry, sir. I didn't know anyone was here. He'll leave right away." "Don't," Darren said, raising a hand. "You made my day." "What's your name, kid?" Evan hesitated. Evan Hartley. Where are your parents?" Evan looked away. "I don't really have any." Something broke in Darren's chest at the boy's quiet honesty. "Well, Evan, who taught you to play like that?" "No one. I just feel things, and sometimes they come out as music." Darren smiled sadly. "I've worked with musicians for 30 years, and I've met maybe 3 people who play with their heart instead of their hands. You're the 4th. Evan blinked, unsure whether to trust the compliment. "Do you want to come with me?" Darren asked gently. "Play something in my studio?" Evan stepped back. I don't think people like me belong in places like that. You belong anywhere music does," Darren said firmly. "And music belongs everywhere." After a long pause, Evan nodded. Darren took him to the studio, where warm lights and polished instruments filled the room. Evan stayed near the door at first, afraid to touch anything. Darren picked up a clean acoustic guitar and gently handed it to. "Try this." Evan held it as if it were made of glass, the smooth wood, the perfect strings. It felt like holding a dream he wasn't allowed to have. When he played the opening chords, the sound came out richer, fuller. Evan closed his eyes, losing himself again. On a dark desert highway, cool wind in my hair. His voice trembled at first, then flowed, cracked with emotion but somehow stronger than before. Everyone in the studio froze. Assistants stopped typing. Technicians stopped adjusting controls. The world outside seemed to pause and listen. When Evan finished, Darren whispered, "You're going to change lives with that voice." Evan didn't believe him, not yet. But Darren did what no one had done before. He invested in the boy from nowhere as if he mattered. He gave him clean clothes, warm meals, and a small room near the studio. He enrolled Evan in school and helped him get identification papers. Slowly, Evan's life shifted from surviving to living. Months later, Darren got an invitation from Silver Ridge Arena for a youth music showcase. Thousands of people would attend. It was the perfect opportunity, but Evan panicked. "I can't," he insisted. "I'm nobody. That's exactly why the world needs to hear you," Darren said softly. "Because nobody becomes somebody the moment they touch another person's heart on the night of the showcase." Evan stood backstage shaking. He held his old guitar, the one he kept for comfort, even though Darren had offered him a new one. "It's part of my story," Evan whispered. The lights dimmed. The crowd fell silent. A voice announced, "Next performer, Evan Hartley." A boy no one recognized stepped onto the stage, barefoot, nervous, clutching a broken guitar. People murmured. Some snickered. Who was this kid? Then he strummed the first chord. Silence. Complete, breathtaking silence. Hotel California drifted through the arena like a prayer. But it wasn't the version people knew. It was Evan's version, filled with longing, pain, hope, and memories no one else had. Lived. His voice cracked on certain words, and those cracks made the audience cry. He wasn't performing. He was telling his story. Halfway through the song, he switched to Darren's guitar and played with a strength he didn't know he had. The transition felt like rising from ashes. By the time he reached the final line, thousands of people were on their feet, crying, cheering, clapping so loudly the ground seemed to shake. Darren wiped tears from his eyes backstage. "You did it, kid." The next morning, videos of Evan's performance flooded every corner of the internet. Headlines exploded. "The boy from nowhere sets the world on fire." Evan Hartley's Hotel California breaks all records, the most emotional performance of the decade. People wanted to know who he was, where he came from, why his voice felt like it carried 1,000 silent stories. But Evan only said one thing in every interview. "I didn't come from nowhere. I came from every place where kids feel invisible." He used his fame to support orphanages and street children. He created scholarships for young musicians who had talent but no support. He became a symbol of hope, proof that even those forgotten by the world could rewrite history. Years later, when Evan walked onto the same stage again, now older, confident, and beloved by millions, he looked out at the crowd and whispered, "Thank you for seeing the boy the world ignored." And when he played Hotel California, it didn't just make history. It carried the story of every child who ever felt like they came from nowhere, until they finally found their place.